Hello everyone. Welcome back to the QQQ vs QLD Challenge channel. It's Sunday morning, April 6th, 2025, and it's time for another monthly update. We've witnessed a dramatic shift in the markets this past month, driven largely by President Trump's tariff announcements. Let's break it all down. Since our last update, QQQ has experienced a sharp downturn. The Nasdaq is now officially in bear market territory, having fallen more than 20% from its recent high. Specifically, QQQ, which tracks the Nasdaq 100, has declined about 22%, dropping from its peak price of $540 on February 19 to $422 on April 4. While that's a significant pullback, it's important to clarify that a bear market is typically defined based on the S&P 500 rather than the Nasdaq or Dow. As of now, the S&P 500 is down about 17.6% from its peak, so technically, we're not in a full-blown bear market by that measure yet. The last official bear market was back in 2022. As always, all potential outcomes must be considered, and the situation remains fluid. The coming days and weeks could be critical in determining whether we fall deeper into bear market territory or begin a recovery. As discussed in previous videos, QQQ has fallen below the 200-day simple moving average, SMA 200, the green line on most technical charts, for the first time since the Golden Cross of March 2023. Historically, this SMA 200 line has acted as a strong support level during bull markets. Over the past 2 years, we've seen two corrections where QQQ approached the SMA 200, the first in October 2023, where it nearly touched the line before bouncing back, and the second in August 2024, where it briefly touched and again rebounded. But this time is different. QQQ has decisively broken below the SMA 200, which raises serious questions about what could come next. Based on historical patterns, I see three possible scenarios playing out. Scenario 1, between 2010 and 2016, QQQ dipped below the SMA 200 green line about once a year but quickly recovered. These pullbacks were relatively mild and short-lived. If history had repeated itself, we might have expected a quick rebound in the coming weeks or months. That was my original expectation, but I was wrong. Trump's unexpected tariff escalation on April 2 completely changed the landscape. He raised tariffs far more aggressively than most anticipated, which invalidates this optimistic scenario, so we can rule this one out. Scenario 2, this scenario mirrors the COVID crash of March 2020, where QQQ plunged well below the SMA 200 green line, losing 31% in just over a month. But then came an astonishing recovery. QQQ broke back above the SMA 200 on April 7, 2020, just a month later, and kicked off a massive bull rally that lasted 9 months. In this case, while the downturn was sharp, the recovery was even sharper. Could we see a similar rebound this time? It's possible, but it depends heavily on how the market digests the new tariffs and how corporate earnings unfold. Scenario 3, this one is more painful. It's what happened in 2022. QQQ fell below the SMA 200 green line on January 21, 2022, and made 3 failed attempts to reclaim it, first on February 2, again on February 9, and a final one on March 29. Each attempt failed, and QQQ entered a prolonged drawdown, falling 33% over the next 10 months. It wasn't until January 27, 2023, that it finally broke above the SMA 200 green line again, and from there, it used the green line as strong support, until now. On March 10, 2025, QQQ plunged below the SMA 200, breaking that 2-year pattern. The big question now is, can QQQ reclaim the SMA 200 green line in the coming weeks or months? We also discussed another historical example, the market correction of 2018, which spanned October to December. That 3-month period was exceptionally challenging, as it coincided with President Trump's tariff war with China, triggering economic uncertainty and a steep stock market decline. During that time, QQQ dropped 25%, falling from 188 on October 1, 2018, to 142 on December 24, 2018. However, after Christmas, QQQ began to recover, and by April 2, 2019, it had formed a golden cross. At this point, caution is warranted, as scenarios reminiscent of 2018, 2020, or 2022 remain possible. The key factor to monitor is whether QQQ can reclaim the SMA 200 green line in the coming weeks or months. On March 26, 2025, QQQ actually attempted to break above the SMA 200 green line but failed. Following that failure, it plunged into Nasdaq bear market territory. I think the next few weeks or months will be critical. If it struggles to break above the SMA 200 green line, it could signal that further downside lies ahead. We're also at the same low point as August 2024. Let's see if we can bounce above that August 2024 low. Let's review the major news stories that triggered this sell-off. First, the Wall Street Journal editorial from April 4 was highly critical of Trump's new tariff policy. Despite a surprisingly strong March jobs report, adding 228,000 jobs, the markets plunged. The Dow dropped over 2,200 points, and the S&P 500 fell 6%, wiping out $5 trillion in market value in just 2 days. The sell-off came after Trump's April 2 announcement of a 10% tariff on all imports, with additional rates on select countries, 34% on top of an existing 20% for Chinese goods. In response, China imposed a 34% tariff on U.S. goods. Fed Chair Jerome Powell warned that these tariffs could trigger inflation and slow economic growth. While the White House claims the economy is roaring, the reality appears more complicated, especially with reports of manufacturing layoffs. A Yahoo Finance article from April 6 called this the worst week for U.S. stocks since 2020, with the S&P 500 dropping 10.5% in just 2 days. The Nasdaq entered a bear market, and fears of inflation, recession, and trade retaliation are spreading. Investors are now closely watching the upcoming corporate earnings season, as companies begin issuing guidance for the rest of 2025. Another article on April 6 confirmed the extent of the damage. The Dow fell 2,231 points, the S&P 500 dropped 6%, and the Nasdaq is now 22% below its December highs. Trump's tariff move effectively erased $5 trillion from the S&P 500. Many analysts are now urging caution and emphasizing long-term strategies. Volatility is likely to continue, and trying to predict short-term moves could prove costly. Now, let's review our investments. As of now, QQQ is trading at $422, significantly down from last month's $472. Let's look at how our positions have performed. We've invested a total of $3,700 into QQQ, and we're currently sitting on a loss of $400, around 11% down. Our average cost per share is approximately $473. On March 13th, I added 0.212 shares at $469. For QLD, we've also invested $3,700, but we're currently down 26%, with a total loss of about $957. Our average cost per share is $96, and on March 13th, I added 1.117 shares at $89. Since May 2024, we've consistently contributed at least $100 each month to both QQQ and QLD. That consistency is key. Our strategy remains unchanged. Invest $100 or more monthly into both QQQ and QLD, no matter what the market is doing. Use dollar cost averaging, DCA, to reduce the impact of volatility over time. Stick to a strict buy and hold plan, no selling, even during downturns. Avoid margin trading, we only invest what we can afford, keeping it sustainable and low risk. This challenge is about building wealth over decades, not reacting to short-term headlines. Patience and discipline are the name of the game. Volatility is normal, but so is long-term growth when you stay consistent. That's it for this month's update. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. I always enjoy hearing from you. And of course, this is for entertainment purposes only, I'm not a financial advisor. Always align your investments with your own goals and risk tolerance. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next month. Happy investing!